Welcome to the Hypothalamic Amenorrhea podcast. I'm Danny Sheriff, your host, certified fertility awareness practitioner, functional nutrition counselor, and founder of the HA Society, and of course, an HA recovery coach who has walked where you currently are walking. This is the place to come if you care about getting your period regularly. This podcast aims to educate, inform, and keep you motivated on your period and HA recovery track. So let's dive in. But last thing, nothing on the show should be taken as medical advice, so please seek the advice of your physician. Hello. If you can hear this, if you are listening to this right now, it means that the Restore program is open. For the first 48 hours, it's early bird pricing, y'all. You don't want to miss out on that for sure. On January 12th, it goes up to $935. So you definitely do not want to miss that. First thing that you're going to do is join the program at thehasociety.com/restore. The second thing is you're going to be added into the group. The third thing is I am going to personally be reaching out to you to get you set up. You're going to get all of your intake forms done just like we do with our one-on-one clients. You're going to be onboarded into the group because it's also a group program, and we're going to really get you ready, get you started, because we have a lot of work to do over 10 weeks if we're going to get you set up for success here. So do not miss this opportunity, right? January 2023 is like the perfect time to fully commit to this process, figure it all out. We're going to work through your nutrition, your mindset, your exercise stuff. We're going to do full audits of your entire life. We're going to do one-on-one sessions. We're going to do, of course, all of the group sessions. We're going to do 3 food reviews throughout the whole process so you can stay accountable, so you can get real feedback. This is not for group coaching. Like, if I'm totally honest with you, when Ashley brought up, I was like, I don't want to do a group coaching program. Everyone does a group coach. It just doesn't sound good. But she was like, no, listen to me. Hear me out. We're going to be bringing the individualization in. You're going to take half the girls. I'm going to take half the girls. We're going to work intensely with these people. Now, because of this, because it's a big one-on-one element to it, we can only take a very limited group. We're only taking like 5 of you. So if you're listening to this, go ahead and sign up now. Enrollment's going to close in about a week, but it might close sooner if we fill up all 5 spots. So don't miss it. It's really, really worth it. You can head to our website. You can see all of the feedback we've gotten from people who've been through it before. We have done this over and over again. We have done this so many times that we've been able to create a blueprint that we are going to give to you and guide you through it. So if you love doing a DIY recovery, be my guest, of course, like, power to you. But if you also love having a set of expert eyes, having an entire support group to cheer you on, to help you feel heard and seen. And if you want all of the information just given to you versus like you having to go all over the internet to find it, the Restore program is definitely for you. So you and I are about to become best friends too. So just prepare for that. If you don't like me, don't join this program. But if you do, we're about to be best friends. So get ready. Join us now, before the first 48 hours is up, at thehasociety.com/restore. The link will be in the show notes. And you got this. You can do this. I'm so excited for us to work on this together. Ashley and I will see you there. Hey guys. It's funny. As soon as I hit record, I can hear my baby just waking up from a nap. I'm going to go get her in a sec. But real quick, I am excited to be giving you guys, for the next few episodes, or at least some upcoming ones, a bunch of cuts from the Q&As from the 25 days of vlogging that I did over on YouTube. So I did vlogmas. I posted almost every day for 25 days in December up until Christmas, just for fun. And I answered a ton of listener questions and just shared a ton of general thoughts on HA, dieting, training, all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to slice a bunch of the sort of highlight bits that work for audio together for you guys to enjoy. If you like any of those, you'll enjoy the whole channel. So you can find me on YouTube at Daddy Sheriff. That's like what you type in. But otherwise, yeah, here is the highlights. Here's what you need to know, guys. So enjoy. And while I have you, we would appreciate it beyond anything if you guys would give this channel, this podcast, a 5-star rating on Apple or wherever you listen to podcasts, just because it's really helpful for other people who are looking for help with missing periods and all the types of things that we talk with. It makes it really helpful for them to make the decision to come and listen. So we would appreciate it. But okay, on with the show. The first question was from, I believe, Kristen, and she's asking about finding your identity, you know, figuring out what you're really into, who you really are when you kind of do away with so much of the time you were spending at the gym or focusing on your food and that kind of thing. So let's listen to her question and me ramble about how I'm going to answer it. I have a listener question that I really, really loved, so bringing it to the forefront. I don't know how I'm going to answer it, but I'm going to try. So Kristen writes in and she says, "Hi Danny, I have a requested topic that I think you are very well suited to cover. Rediscovering your identity in recovery, especially when it's taking you longer than 3 months to gain your first period and you are not spending tons of time at the gym anymore. I've really loved seeing you talk about this here and there, and I think it's a huge topic that many would benefit from. I love your thoughts on it." Dude. Yes, so Ashley and I, strongly believe that you are not your HA, you are not the gym, you are not your diet, you're not any of those things. You're not anything. You're just you. And I think this is the big cool thing, is that you don't have to identify as anything. How's that? That's the biggest learning here. So when I first got into recovery, I actually started drawing, and I kind of became an illustrator. If you scroll far back enough on my Instagram, you'll see I only posted drawings for a long time, and it really helped me in my recovery, and it really helped me feel like I was able to contribute something different to the world than just like losing weight. Not that, frankly, that was actually contributing anything to the world when you really think about it, but I guess I believed that it was. So when I was able to start contributing art, that felt really cool. But you know, I actually don't really draw anymore. I kind of like stopped. I kind of finished up with it because it also wasn't my identity, you know. Now I'm actually really into like DIY projects. I'll show you some of the things that I've done. I would love to have a YouTube channel about DIYs. I did this wainscoting myself out of like scrap, actually, out of scrap gym platforms that were no longer being used. So isn't that like fitting, right? That this is old from gym materials that I wasn't using anymore, plywood that I created, my beautiful office design. You know, I love all of those things, and I might not be into them all forever either, and I don't have to be. And maybe I'm not even going to want to talk about HA later. Maybe I'm not going to want to own the HA Society anymore. But you know, as that business and as coaching clients gets busier, and as we launch the Restore program, and as we launch the coaching certification, like
that becomes more and more a part of my life, but I still don't identify as it. You know who I am? I am Danielle Sheriff. I can have a short temper sometimes. I'm always learning. I think that I am a decent listener. I think that I'm good at lots of things. I think I'm not good at a lot of things. I think I have a great family. I think I'm a pretty good mom. I love being a mom. Kind of. You know, but I'm not like the gym. I'm not like a business owner. I'm not like, I'm not identified as those things. Do you know what I mean? There's things that I do. And I think that's the real key, is go out and find some things you want to do, but say, maybe this is something I'll do forever, and maybe it's not. Maybe I identify as this, but probably not really. Like, you just don't have to identify as anything. So if the question, because I kind of get the vibe that's like, I haven't been to the gym in 3 months, like, what do I do? You need to go and find some things, my dear, that you love. And it is as simple as that. And it is as simple as trying some things and then being like, nah, not into it, right? It's actually really cool and makes you more interesting that you do lots of different things, and you've tried lots of different things, and you have tried things and said, you know what, this isn't for me, right? I almost feel like the question itself is needs to be addressed. Why are you trying to find something else to fit yourself in? Realizing that maybe this box you put yourself in wasn't serving you, but then trying to find a different box to put yourself in is not the solution, right? How do you take yourself out of the box and just be like, hey, who am I? And trying to find a different box to fit yourself in is almost like trying to avoid discovering who you really are, and like having to be still with who you really are. So one thought exercise for you is, if you removed judgment completely, what would you do? Right? So maybe it's like, well, I want to draw, but I'm a bad drawer, and people will think it's bad. Or I want to sing, but I'm not a very good singer. Or I want to learn an instrument, but I'm not very musical. Or I want to travel, but I'm afraid. Or I want to like do DIY projects, but power tools intimidate me, right? Like all these buts, all these reasons not to. If you removed that, what would you do? Scrape it all back. Just bring it all back. What would you do? If you could wave a magic wand and nothing was stopping you, what would you do? Pursue it. Go after it. That is the thing. And if your answer is, well, I would be super jacked, ripped, lean, I would have the perfect body. If that's your answer, okay, I mean, cool. But then I just want to know from you, like, what is that worth your health? Because if it is worth your health, then bloody go for it. Who am I to tell you how to live your life? But if it's not, then it's not really the answer. And we need to dig deeper. And really, that answer, that like I would be thin and I would be like a fitness model, whatever, that answer is the answer that makes you, that is how you think you're going to be loved. Because it's a way to receive external validation from other people, right? So how do we do something different, right? How do we not approach HA recovery the same way we approached our diet and lifestyle, right? Not by seeking the approval of others. If you remove judgment and if you weren't trying to seek the approval of others, what would you go and do today? And I think that's an awesome question to ask yourself every single day, even through recovery, right? As you're looking at this meal that you don't want to eat, or you're looking in the mirror and you're feeling anxious about it, if you remove judgment from your reflection in the mirror, if you remove judgment from the meal you're about to eat, right? If you removed what you think are the repercussions of it, what would you do? Because the reality is, you probably can. You probably can remove judgment from that. You probably can eat that meal without the repercussion and fear that you think is happening. And that repercussion isn't just like gaining a pound. That repercussion in your head is actually like, well, if I gain a pound, that means my body's getting bigger, and that means I'm no longer worthy or loved or whatever. Like, you need to get super deep to the core and understand like why that is your fear, so that you can move past it to really figure out what it is that you want and that you want to do, and that's actually going to make you happy, and it's actually going to serve your health. Or I don't know if that helps. I hope it does. I hope it does.
Okay, this next question is from Alicia, and she's asking about just like period parameters, what to expect after a few cycles and things like that. It's a long question, so I'll let you listen on to how she words it and what she asks.
Alicia, hey there. I may be recovering from HA and I have a question. I've had 4 recovery periods that have been 19 to 20 days apart. Is it normal to have short cycles at the beginning of recovery? This is a super common question. Oh, you guys are really far away from me now. Okay. In 2013 to 2014, I lost 68 pounds and was the skinniest I've ever been. I did this through diet and exercise. I picked up running and began running half and full marathons and continued to eat low calorie following the Weight Watchers program. I also had a very stressful job at the time as well. In 2018, my periods, which were very predictable, almost always 32 days apart, became erratic. My periods would sometimes come 2 months apart and sometimes 2 weeks apart. By October 2018, I almost completely lost my period. Between 2018 and 2022, I may have had 5 periods in those 4 years, and some were medically induced with hormones. So let's count that as none. I went to the doctor and was diagnosed with PCOS, but after reading the period repair manual, I started to question the diagnosis. I learned more about HA and thought perhaps the combination of diet, exercise, and stress might have caused my lack of period. In 2021, I left my high-stress job but continued restricting food and exercising. I started doing the work but didn't go all in until August 2022.
Hello. Sorry for interrupting. Just interrupting really quick, guys, to remind you to join the Restore program. It is open. It is ready for you. We cannot wait to meet you and help you get your cycle back and become best friends forever. Okay, so go to thehasociety.com/restore. And okay, go back on with the show.
By August, I made resting a priority, completely stopped restricting food, and took a break from running. I got a period in September, followed by 3 more periods spaced 19 days apart between the first 2 periods, and then 20 days apart with the last one. My periods have been light and long. I've always had long, heavy periods since my periods started at age 9. I'm curious if this is normal at the beginning of recovery. Okay, so Alicia, yeah, it's normal. It's normal for your period to not be perfect right away. So absolutely expect that you're going to go a few periods where ovulation is far apart, where luteal phases are shorter, and then just systematically work through them. Now, what I always recommend, and I feel like a broken record sometimes, but just make sure you have a timeline in mind that is short and realistic for how long you're going to go before you take action. This means that this means like 3-4 cycles, 3-4 months, right? So I just recorded the story about my postpartum story. It's going to come out on Friday, but in it I share how I set a date for myself, right? That like, okay, if my postpartum period hadn't returned with the 0 changes that I'm making to my lifestyle right now, then at 6 weeks, I have to review. So you could do every 6 weeks or something like that. And that's how I work with my clients too. I create timelines that I think are reasonable based on their health history and what they're going for as to how long we're going to stay consistent with this plan that we've got going on, and then, you know, what changes, what interventions will we do next. So that's kind of what I recommend, is that you keep working towards getting them to be within the healthy cycle parameters, and if they continue, you need to make some changes. That's that. Certainly I see how the PCOS thing happened for you with your far apart periods. It doesn't sound like you ever really lost your cycle, and I think that this is a lot more common than you think. It's just that people just kind of identify with like, oh, my cycles are just far apart, right? If you're cycling in general, you are significantly less likely to identify that there is a problem than if you're like us, where your cycle completely disappears. But the mechanisms of what's happening, if it's due to stress, diet, and exercise, is still exactly the same. You just have a higher tolerance for stress. Your body is just still able to produce some kind of hormone function and make reproductive hormones at a higher intensity of stress. It's just like you might be heading towards HA, but it will take you longer to get there. But because you're having some of them, it's harder to recognize. But absolutely, you're on the right track. It's really cool that you figured it out, right? That like you were having cycle issues without just being like, oh no, this is just me. But yeah, just make a plan, a timeline plan, make specific changes, follow those changes for the amount of time on your plan, challenge yourself, and if you haven't seen the improvement that you're looking for within 6 weeks, or whatever your time frame is, it's time to make the next change, which for you might be reviewing, right? You said you're all in, but maybe just reviewing what your all in looks like. Yeah. Where are you getting your nutrients from? What's your meal timing look like? Are there still food rules, or perhaps some behaviors that you're doing? Again, I feel like I'm plugging this a lot, but like this, I created the period recovery game plan for all of the people asking questions like this. That game planner, the point is to go through it and interview, like ask yourself, am I doing this? Am I doing this? Am I doing this? Yes, no, yes, no. It's going to help bring to light like where your blind spots might be, because you really might think you're all in, or you really might think you're doing all the things you need to, but then you come up against something on the checklist, for example, in the planner, and you're like, oh, I might not be doing that, or I might still be holding on to that behavior.
Okay, the last question for today is by Julia, and she's kind of asking for advice on her journey, letting me know where she's at, and I take a stab at kind of giving her some advice and sort of dissecting her question and kind of trying to find like the real question under the question that she asks. Do you know what I mean? I hope you guys enjoy this one.
Hi Danny, my name is Julia. I am 20 years old. I'm a college student studying nursing at Purdue University. I listened to your podcast about amenorrhea and I would love your input. I was a cross-country runner and suffered with anorexia in my middle school years, which is 7th to 8th grade. I did have amenorrhea during this time. I worked with a gyno-endocrinologist, sports dietitian, and trainer, and I got my period back. It was regular and all was good. Then I went on birth control my junior year of high school, trying to help with breakouts. Was on it until May this year, about 3.5 years. I started doing research on the gut microbiome and decided I needed to get off of it. I got the non-hormone copper IUD, although I am not currently in a relationship, so I'm not having sex, but I haven't had a period since then. My gyno checked the following labs: prolactin, LH, TSH, and she gives me some numbers for that. Last month, I did the Prevera challenge. I did not have withdrawal bleed, only cramping after going off of it. I'm 5'3", I weigh 126 pounds. I still count my calories, eating 2,700 calories a day, and I'm dedicated to my cardio and lifting routine. I still struggle with the mental side of food, but always eat my calories. I admit I'm always concerned with getting fat. I focus on whole foods and limit processed food. I mostly eat chicken, but also eat salmon and beef sometimes. I don't have a lot of money because I'm a college because I'm in college, but I'm desperate for help. What do you suggest? Okay, so I never really read these questions before I decided to start filming generally. So let's kind of like break down how I like pick apart this question. And this is a little bit of an insight into honestly like how we work with clients here, where it's not like when we have a client intake, it's not really all of the facts you're giving me that I'm taking into account. It's how you're giving them to me, and it's like all of them in context together, right? So seeing your history, right, with amenorrhea and anorexia, then considering that you've been on the pill, and then considering that you have taken steps towards figuring out why your cycle disappeared again, right? Because, hang on a second, I was on it till May. I started doing research. I went off the pill. Okay, okay. I was like, hang on. Did you lose your period again? You did. So you don't have a period. You have that history. You've been on the pill. You don't have a period right now, and you did not pass the Provera challenge. And if your listener doesn't know what that means, I have a whole video on it. It's the progesterone challenge, where you take a pill for about 10 days and see if it can elicit a bleed. And if you do not have a uterine lining build up, you will not have a bleed. And so this tells us you're not producing estrogen, right? If you do pass, it tells us you are, and that you're much closer to recovery than not. But if you haven't passed, you well and truly have HA. So, okay. And now 5'3", 126, 126 pounds, 2 kilograms. I need to do that check. So I see that you probably feel like, oh my gosh, I'm eating so much food, and my height and weight ratio it's not something crazy. No one's worried about me. What's going on? But you also recognize in yourself, Julia, that you focus on whole foods and limited processed foods, and you are restrictive with the types of animal proteins that you eat. You're probably restrictive with other things. You probably have food rules and exercise rules, right? There's probably rules going on. Like, if I don't exercise today, I can't eat as much. Or I also, someone says, I mostly eat chicken, but I have no further context. Like, what does that mean? Does mostly mean 2 days a week, 3 days a week? Does mostly mean you have a tiny little incy portion of chicken? All of this really matters. So, understanding that you're like, I don't have a lot of money, so I can't do like these tests or working with people. I'm gonna recommend 2 options for you. One is that you sit down with a journal and you do a review for yourself of like what all of your sort of food rules are. Like, what are all of the beliefs that you have around what you can eat, or how you should exercise, or how your exercise impacts your eating. All of those rules, look at them, and then try to step back and look at them objectively. Do these make sense, or are these nonsensical? And then you need to take actions against them. So you're at what we call the ceiling, which is I've made the changes that I'm willing to make within the boundaries that I'm comfortable with. So I'm willing to eat 2,700 calories, but they have to come from these places. Like, that's probably a ceiling if you're having a hard time breaking that, right? They have to come from whole foods and limited processed foods. Of course, that's great. Of course, eating whole foods and limited processed foods is good, but there's something about it that's not serving you, right? And you say it right here, I'm always concerned with getting quote unquote fat. And that's the root cause here. That's the problem, Julia. That fear alone is causing you to hold on to certain behaviors, like only eating certain things in certain ways, because you're afraid of that.
So my other suggestion for you is that you be diving into that fear. You need to wrestle and grapple with that, okay? It is an irrational fear. It is founded on fear, right? Like it's founded on unimportant, on untrue, and on unrealistic expectations. And that is the root cause of your issue that you highlighted right here in front of us. You've highlighted the behaviors that's causing you to do. And those two things are stopping your period from coming back. Point blank. So I'm hoping that that's helpful enough for you, that you're able to use that to make some changes and push past, like, okay, I totally acknowledge that I do this one behavior, so I'm gonna change that, right? 'Cause this is where you're gonna get your period back, is in changing the behaviors that you're doing based on fear. Okay? I hope that was helpful.
Thank you so much for listening today, guys. Please subscribe to the podcast, and if you could head to iTunes specifically and leave a rating or review, that would help so much, because it makes it easier for other people with HA who are Googling around to find the podcast really easily. So if you do that, you're doing a service to all of the women.
Well,